and we know that she is working in association with Mehta, Padkar, Vandana Shiva, and all. And now let us look at all these as maybe a quick, maybe a short introduction on Sugathakumari. Right. So she is an Indian poet, activist, and environmentalist. She is born on 22nd January 1934. Okay, she has always been at the forefront of many environmental issues, so also feminist movements in Kerala, and she is an established writer in Malayalam. She is of course a unique voice, all right, and she has her own emotional empathy and humanist sensitivity and moral alertness, right? So these three we find in her emotional empathy with the environment, with the fellow human beings, and of course the very humanist. She is a humanist, right? And that sensitivity of the humanist and her moral alertness, right? Maybe often in the whenever there is some kind of an issue, like it could be an environmental problem, it could be some kind of a molestation or something of that sort, we understand very soon we listen to her. Now maybe you don't listen to her often because she is rather old. Otherwise, of course, you listen to her all the time, right? And let's look at Sugathakumari's poetry, right? So most of her poetic works had a special place for Mother Nature, okay, and some of them just dwelled on human relationships and emotional traverse of the mind, okay. So she played a very big role in the Save Silent Valley protest, right? And it was because of the interference and the alertness and the kind of agitation that was led by Sugathakumari, that we have that uh, wonderful geographical area still there in Kerala. Okay, and she has been the founder, patron, and of course active member of many organizations. Some of them we just look at. She's the founder of the she's the founder secretary of the Prakrithi Samrakshana Samithi, and she is of course a uh, uh, an active worker in a home for the destitute, right? That is, of course, the home is Abhaya. She is the very uh, uh, what's it in charge, or she is the founder, yeah, and she is of course the patron of this home for the destitute. And you will see that it is known as Abhaya in Malayalam. The name of the very house is, right. This is in fact a house for a home for destitute women, all right, and it is during the day a care center for the mentally ill, all right, and that's another organization or institution which is under her guidance and her leadership. Besides, we also understand that um, I'm just looking for if people. All right. Okay. She is also the chairperson of, right. Years ago, she was the chairperson of the Kerala State Women's Commission. Okay. So, am I audible? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
All right. So
yes,
now all this as a short introduction to the very life of Sugathakumari. Now let us look at her very life, like early life, her biographical details. She is in fact born in the Varapalli Tharawad in Aranmula, and her father was Bodheshwaran, and Bodheshwaran, her father, was of course a great thinker, writer, and he took part in the freedom struggle of India. And her mother was a professor, V.K. Kartyani Amma. She was, of course, a very well known scholar and teacher of Sanskrit. So from the very parents of Sugathakumari, you can understand how lucky she is, right? Born to such educated, scholarly parents. Of course, we have. It's quite obvious that she is also educated, and she has a lot of talents, right? Very talented, like her parents, right? And now she does her schooling, and after that she comes to the University College Trivandrum, and she took her masters in philosophy in 1955, and she did research for 3 years on comparative study of the concept of moksha in Indian schools of philosophy, and she unfortunately could not complete her research. All right, the thesis was not submitted to the university, and hence she could not have her doctorate. Otherwise, of course, she could have been, right. Okay, but she did a lot of research, but unfortunately certain things were not favorable, right, and there is the incompletion of her research, right. Besides, know that she is also lucky because she is married to Dr. K. Velayuthan Nair, and he was also an educationist and writer. So Sugathakumari comes from a very learned, educated, scholarly family, and very educated, very broad-minded, liberal, and talented. Okay, so all the collections of her literary works, especially poetry, is an assertion of the fact that she is really very, and again, no doubt she is one among the top writers of India. Okay, now her literary career, we are just looking at her anthologies, her poems, right. So her first poem was published in 1957 when she was just 23 years. Okay, and she won the Kerala Sahitya Academy Award for an anthology, Padira Pukal, in 1968, right. So when she was at a very young age, right, she wins the Sahitya Academy Award, Kerala Sahitya Academy Award, and later her anthology Ratrimala just won the Kendra Sahitya Academy Award in 1978. Okay, so I'm sure most of you have read the poems in that anthology Ratrimala, or even maybe you have just listened to the titular poem Ratrimala in the anthology, and as you read this poem you will understand how efficient and successful she is in conveying her emotions, her worry, her anxiety, her concern for environment in this poem. Okay, it's not only for environment but also for humanity. Her great concern, sympathy, empathy, and her vigilant perspective. Okay, and her warning. She is always giving a warning to the fellow Keralites, right? So also to the Indians, right? And she has always some warning, or she has something to say to everybody, and that is there. She is representing the problems, the pains, the worry of the women of Kerala, on maybe all the kind of atrocities impinged on women, all right, the kind of maybe torture, domestic violence, okay, all that you have in, all right, even now we have that, right. So also how Mother Earth is polluted, contaminated, exploited, all right. Maybe you will see a lot of similarities between the poetry of Sugathakumari and O.N.V. Kurup, right. Poetry like maybe most of the anthologies like Ratrimala, then some Ambalamani, okay. So most of the, you can find a lot of poems of Sugathakumari and O.N.V. Kurup having a lot of similarities. Say for example, maybe you can say that the poem we study, Colossus, right, as well as Ratrimala. Okay, Ratrimala is all about the problems of an individual on one side, so also it's a problem of the earth, it's about the problems of the society, the community, okay. And similarly you have the poem of O.N.V. Kurup, which is ഇനിയും മരിക്കാത്ത ഭൂമി, right? ഭൂമിക്ക് ഒരു ചരമഗീതം, right? That wonderful song, right? That is also about the environment, Mother Earth, individuals on one side, and it's about, right, people as a whole, so also about individuals, right? So uh, when you read the poem Ratrimara, okay, I speak about Ratrimara because it won Kendra Sahitya Academy Award in 1978, right? Similarly, all right, a lot of titles, right? um, Pavam Manava Kridiyam 1968, another anthology. Every anthology 30-40 poems, right? Very productive is her literary career. Okay, Muthuchippi of 1961, Irul Chirugugal of 1969, Swapna Bhumi, Pranamam, Ambalamani, Kurinyipukal, Tulavarsha Pacha, Radhayevide, Devadasi, Manalelitha, Abhisariga. These are all some of the anthologies of Sugathakumari. Okay, so most of all these poems show the same kind of concern, worry, criticism, all right, warning to the people around. Okay, so let us just look at some of the lines from Ratrimara, the poem, which is of course an anthology, right? It is from an anthology, right? It is from the anthology title Ratrimara, and the second poem is Ratrimara. As you read, you will understand this is maybe like a lyric, right? All right, it's about one individual, but no, it could be anybody. Ratrimara, ചുമ്മാതെ കേണും ചിരിച്ചും വിതുമ്പിയും നിർത്താതെ പിറുപിറുത്തും നീണ്ട മുടിയിട്ടുലച്ചും കുനിഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നൊരു യുവതിയാം ഭ്രാന്തിയെപ്പോലെ. രാത്രിമഴ മന്നമീ ആശുപത്രിക്കുള്ളിൽ ഒരു നീണ്ട തേങ്ങലായി ഒഴുകി വന്നെത്തി ഈ വാതിൽ വിടവിലൂടെ ഏറെ തണുത്ത കൈവിരൽ നീട്ടി എന്നെ തൊടുന്നൊരു ശ്യാമയാം ഇരവിൻ്റെ ഗിന്നയാം പുത്രി. So you have a lot of pathetic fallacy there. Okay, the poet's pain, poet's worry, poet's tension, anxiety, everything is attributed to the rain in the night, right? Okay, so the poet is speaking to, right? So this is the kind of worry that is in the mind of many people, many women. Okay, and the very misery, poverty, then sickness, all right, all that. രാത്രിമഴ ഇന്നെൻ്റെ രോഗോഷ്ണശയ്യയിൽ വിനിദ്രയാമങ്ങളിൽ ഇരുട്ടിൽ തനിച്ചു കരയാനും മറന്നു ഞാൻ ഉഴലവേ ശില പോലെയുറവേ എൻ ദുഃഖസാക്ഷി. all right, so the reference is to the indifference of people, the indifference of people to others, indifference of people to the environment, the surrounding. Okay, so a lot of great poetry from Sugathakumari, and maybe another wonderful poetry that reminds us about her great care for, or her concern for the environment, fellow beings, is all right, Oru Paattu Pinneyum. You read that, you will understand the poetry, or the kind of utterances come from a very a heart which is suffering from so much of pain, right? ഒരു പാട്ടു പിന്നെയും പാടി നോക്കുന്നിതാ ചിറകൊടിഞ്ഞുള്ളൊരു കാട്ടുപക്ഷി മഴു തിന്ന മാമര കൊമ്പിൽ തനിച്ചിരുന്നൊടിയാ ചിറകു ചെറുതുളക്കി നോവുമെന്നോർത്തോ പതുക്കെ അനങ്ങാതെ പാവം പണിപ്പെട്ടു പാടിടുന്നു. ഇടറുമി ഗാനമൊന്നേറ്റു പാടാൻ കൂടെ ഇണയില്ല, കൂട്ടിന്നു കിളികളില്ല. പതിവുപോൽ കൊത്തിപ്പിരിഞ്ഞുപോയി മെയ്ച്ചൂടിൽ അടവെച്ചുണർത്തിയ കൊച്ചുമക്കൾ. ആർക്കുമല്ലാതെ വെളിച്ചവും ഗാനവും കാറ്റും മനസ്സിൽ കുടിയിരുത്തി. വരവായൊരന്തിയെ കണ്ണാലൊഴിഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടൊരു കൊച്ചു രാപ്പൂ ഉണർന്ന നേരം ഒരു പാട്ടുകൂടി പതുക്കെ മൂളുന്നിതാ ചിറകൊടിഞ്ഞുള്ള ഒരു കാട്ടുപക്ഷി. Beautiful poetry. It goes like that, and end of the poem, look at that. ഇനിയും പറക്കില്ല എന്നത് ഓർക്കാതെയാ വിരിവാനമുള്ളാൽ പുണർന്നുകൊണ്ടേ വെട്ടിയ കുറ്റിമേൽ ചാഞ്ഞിരുന്ന ആർദ്രയായി ഒറ്റച്ചിറകിൻ്റെ താളമോടെ ഒരു പാട്ട് പിന്നെയും തെളിഞ്ഞു പാടുന്നിതാ ചിറകൊടിഞ്ഞുള്ളൊരു കാട്ടുപക്ഷി. Okay, so it's about, maybe you think that it's about one word, right? So this one bird, right? This is not a bird, right? This not only it's about the bird on one side, It may be about, of course, many other birds. It could be about maybe an individual. It could be about the environment. It could be about, of course, anyone who suffers, anyone who is alienated, anyone who is exploited. Okay, human beings, animate, birds, the very vegetation, the very environment, anything, right? Same kind of cry we have in ONV when he says that, all right, Ariyada Jananiye Parinaichuru Yavana, this is ONV. അറിയാതെ ജനനിയെ പരിണയിച്ചൊരു യവന തരുണൻ്റെ എത്ര പഴകി പുതിയ കഥ എഴുതുന്നു വസുധയുടെ മക്കളിവർ വസുധയുടെ വസ്ത്രമുരിയുന്നു വിപണികളിൽ അവ വിറ്റു മോന്തുന്നു വിടനഗര മഴുമുനകൾ. Look at that. Okay, so the very all the atrocities shown towards or done towards, all the cruelty that is impinged on the environment is presented very effectively in the poetry of Sugathakumari. Same we have in the very poem we have to study, Colossus. We'll after some very soon we'll come back to come to the very poem prescribed, Colossus, right? Now she won a lot of literary awards, awards like Kerala Sahitya Academy Award for Padira Pukal, then Kendra Sahitya Academy Award for Ratri Mara, then Vailar Award for Ambalamani, Ashan Award, then Lalita Kala Sahitya Award, then Vallathol Award, alright, Kerala Sahitya Academy Fellowship, alright, Balamani Amma Award, Edutachan Award, most, then Madhrubhumi Award, right? Most of the awards, alright, most of the awards of Kerala and India were given to this great poetess, that is Sugathakumari. Okay, and now let us come to the very prescribed poem, that is Colossus. All right, let us look at the very title of the poem. I'm just changing the slide. Is the slide visible? Can you see the slide on which the poem, the very first 3 stanzas of the poem we have? Can you see that, the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, sir.
All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now listen. The poem has a lot of significance, right? I would say this is exactly like ONV group, or it has a lot of similarities like with Bhumika Charamagidam, Colossus. What is the poem Colossus about? When you read the poem, or we understand that Colossus is a poem about the mankind. It's a poem about the civilization of human beings, right? Or rather, we can say that it's about the history of mankind and civilization. It's about the history of mankind and civilization. Okay, so you will see you have a lot of references and from, of course, right, biblical references, then references from the very holy books of Indian mythology, Hindu mythology. You can see the confluence of the East and West or myths here in this poem Colossus, right? And let us look at the very title, Colossus, right? Colossus, what does the title imply? The very title Colossus refers to the there is in fact a huge, gigantic, colossal is a vocabulary item in English, right? Colossal, the very vocabulary item literally means gigantic, right? Huge, right? Okay, big, right? Very big, right? Huge. That is the very meaning, that is literary meaning of Colossus. Okay, and now this particular title Colossus in the poem specifically refers to the a bronze statue in Greece, right? You have Rhodes, Rhodes, Rhodes in Greece, and at Rhodes in Greece is kept a bronze statue, a very huge statue of Helios, that is Helios, right? And Helios is the personification of the sun in Greek mythology. So the reference in this poem is to that very huge, legendary bronze statue of Helios, the personification of the sun in Greek myth, which is kept at Rhodes in Greece. That is the very title Colossus, right? Colossus, right? And now understand remember, don't forget this. This particular poem, Colossus, is taken from an anthology which is titled Pavam Manava Hrudayam. Okay, Pavam Manava Hrudayam. All right, and all the poem. There are so many poems, and all the poems helps us understand the very the kind of violence, the kind of maybe bloodshed, cruelty, then exploitation of environment, exploitation, or rather the ill treatment and torture, persecution of women. All right, so also the environment, all that is just presented in the many poems in this anthology, Pavam Manava Hrudayam. And the poet wants people to have love, right? Okay, so she wants people to be sympathetic, rather kind, sympathetic, empathetic, and loving to, right, one another and also to the surroundings, right? Okay, so most of the poems in this anthology show the lack of sympathy, empathy, lack of fellow feeling, and all the violence and cruelty and death and calamity that has just crept into that has just occurred the world, maybe during the history of mankind, during the civilization of mankind. All right, so let us just I think the title is clear to you right now. You know the title, okay, the meaning of the title, the significance of the title, and now more about the kind of symbolism in the title. So Colossus, the poem, or rather the title, refers, this is in fact a fictional creation of a superhero. All right, so you have a lot of superheroes, right, like your maybe Spider-Man, your own Minal Murali, and all right. So here Colossus, the gigantic statue at Rhodes in Greece, is in fact a bronze statue of Helios. All right, but in the poem, Colossus is a fictional superhero appearing in maybe, all right, you can see this this kind of superhero in many maybe comic books, especially in American comic books. You have Colossus again as a fictional superhero. Okay, so one side you have the statue of Helios in Greece, the other side you have Colossus, the superhero, in American comic books. Okay, and when you study or look at that comic hero or that superhero in American comic books, you will see that he is very powerful and he uses his talent for okay, maybe a right for the betterment of men, right, in the American comic books, right. That is the colossal figure, rather fictional superhero in American comic books, right. He is very powerful, very talented. He uses his power, his talent for the betterment of man. All right, but in this poem, SUGATHAKUMARI is presenting human beings as very, very violent. All right, very violent. And we look at the first man, we look at the last, right, like we have the baby, right, the first child, right, the birth of maybe the first child, and that you can see in the first opening stanza, and again that very child is just growing up. So you have the first human child, the birth of the first human baby, and the growth of the same baby, and later this baby, all right, that human child is growing up into, of course, a gigantic figure. Okay, that is human being. The very first human baby, he grows up like the statue. Okay, and what now we have to understand, this individual, or that very baby who was born many years ago, on one side is a single individual, the other side he symbolically stands for all the human beings. Okay, Sugatakumari is helping us to just look at the history of mankind from the very first birth of the first child to this moment. All right, and maybe as an individual or as a whole, as maybe humanity, the entire humanity, okay, is represented by this gigantic colossal figure in the title. Okay, and now let us just listen to the very poem. I'll just go for a quick recitation of the poem. Afterwards we'll just come back to maybe for further explanation. Okay. In short, maybe before the recitation, I can tell you that Sugatakumari is just telling people in Kerala, or rather, she tells the readers of her poetry that the history of man has been a history of violence. The history of human civilization has been a history of brutality, violence, butchery, death. Okay, and very, very shockingly, in a very appalling way, Sugatakumari presents the growing maybe violence, okay, in the world, right? So one side we have the baby born, and the baby is growing into a gigantic size, and the baby grows into, of course, a monstrous size, monstrous proportion, huge head, huge mouth, huge hands and body and legs, and the child or this particular baby is feeding itself on, or it is fed with blood and flesh of fellow beings, right? So a very shocking and wonderful representation of the history of humanity. Let us look at the poem. I'll recite it once. Okay. Colossus, or I would ask one of you to recite it. Like maybe we will listen to Dheeraj. Dheeraj, please recite the poem. Do you have a copy, Dheeraj? Hello.
No, sir, I'm reading from the screen.
Screen. Okay, I'll just change the screen as you are reading. Come on, you can read from the screen. Let's have a different voice, right? My voice. You always listen to my voice, no? Come on, Dheeraj, please read Colossus.
Long ago, beyond the memory of man, in a blind night eclipsing sun and moon, writhing in pain, mother gave birth to a child. In the dark moment when the first brother slew the first brother and buried him, the child woke up and cried. Then, as murders raged in seething darkness, as lies surged up in triumph, as deceit stole close with daggers hidden behind smiles, the child grew strong and smart. His mother's milk not relishing, he searched for battlefields and blood, and laughed in glee at the sight of them. He began to run about, and he grew dark as night. His fiery eyes grew round, and teeth and nails grew long. And once he saw the agony at Calvary, sucking that in another 6 feet he grew. Thus, as he grew and stood, a terrible figure, tall and straight, our forefathers fed him well. They famine, fed him on famine,
Famine,
on the
famine.
tortures of war, famine, on the tortures of war, on the pain of the deserts, through which came slaves writhing under whips and groaning under loads of stone. Life crawled into night, burdened with centuries' pain and sin, and now the colossal stirrer's hunger shakes the earth. We, yes, we too, feed him well, with piled up suffering hill high, the blood of world wars, with the ever burning smoky flame of Hiroshima, with the greedy hatred of empires swallowing each other, with the debris of broken ideals. The more we give, the fiercer the monster grows. His hunger rages. He grows taller than the sky. Towards us, his arms come lengthening. His mouth gapes wider. We pour into it the tears of Dharma and again the blood of truth.
Thank you, Dheeraj. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
so and I know it's not over there. Okay, there was one more slide. I'm sorry. Okay, all right, one more slide. Come on, Dheeraj, one more slide. I missed it, right? Please. No, not enough. Come on.
No, not enough. I, shaking with laughter, the monster bends down, takes our earth in his hands, and stands straight and huge. His wriggling tongue licks every corner of the earth. He has begun munching it. The sky fills with poison of his breath. My heart is faint. I have only a lute to face this giant with. Whom do I call through my lute? Whom do I search for? I search for a mighty one, mighty as the Varaha that rescued our mother from the depths of the sea.
All right, that's it, right? So now look at this. Maybe in this quick single reading, I'm sure you understood some of the references and the meaning. Okay, now I would suggest that now that it is initially written in Malayalam by Sugathakumari, later it is translated into English by Hridayakumari. Maybe do you like to listen to the Malayalam version so that maybe it's meaningful? Do you want to listen? A quick maybe 5 minutes,
Yes, sir.
2 3 minutes, right? Okay,
Yes, sir.
so I think it's good that you listen to the Malayalam version as well, because remember there are of course different opinions about translations, but this translation is pakka because it's done by the very sister of Sudhakumari. So the meaning is very much there, but sometimes it is said that translation kills a work, but we understand that these days translations are recognized, and maybe some of the big awards, literature awards, awards for literature is of course for translations, like our own JCB award, maybe 25 lakhs, right? Okay, and it is of course given to translations, like Benjamin got it, and I think recently I forgot, is it Harish or somebody? I forgot it, right? Anyway, you understand the translation. Anyway, now let us look at, maybe it helps us to understand the meaning of the poem Colossus. I'll just go for a quick reading, right? I'm not reciting, not good at reciting, right? Afterwards we'll come back to the poem and we'll just enjoy it. All right. Colossus. പണ്ട് അതിലും പണ്ടാണ് അമ്മയൊരമ്പിളിയും സൂര്യനും ഒളിവാർന്നോരന്ധത തന്നിരുളിൽ കരൾ നൊന്തൊരു സന്തതിയെ പ്രസവിച്ചു. പണ്ട് അതിലും പണ്ടാണ് അമ്മയൊരമ്പിളിയും സൂര്യനും ഒളിവാർന്നൊരാ അന്ധത തന്നിരുളിൽ കരൾ നൊന്തൊരു സന്തതിയെ പ്രസവിച്ചു. ആദ്യ സഹോദരനെതിരെ കൊന്നെങ്ങോ മറ ചെയ്തൊരു കറുത്ത മുഹൂർത്തം നോക്കി ഉണർന്ന പൈതൽ കിടന്നു കരഞ്ഞു. പിന്നെ ഇരുട്ടുകൾ ഇളകി കൊലകൾ നടക്കും തോറും, കളവുകളേറ്റു തിമിർക്കും തോറും, ചതിവുകൾ പിന്നിൽ ഒളിച്ച കടാരകൾ മിന്നി അടുത്തു ചിരിക്കും തോറും ചുണയാർന്ന ചെറു പൈതൽ വളർന്നു തുടങ്ങി. അമ്മ കൊടുക്കും വെൺപാലല്ല കുഞ്ഞിന് ഹിതമവൻ ഓരോ കൊല നിണവും തേടുന്നു, കാണുകിലാർത്തു ചിരിച്ചിടുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ അവൻ ഓടി നടന്നു തുടങ്ങി. കൂരിരുൾ നിറമാർന്നു, തീ കണ്ണുകളാകെ ഉരുണ്ടു, വന്നഘ നിരയും പല്ലും നീണ്ടു. ദൂരെ കാൽവരി മലയിൽ ഒലിക്കും വേദനയൊരു നാൾ കണ്ടു നുകർന്നവൻ 6 അടി കൂടെ വളർന്നു. അങ്ങനെ അവൻ ഉഗ്രത പൂണ്ടു നിവർന്നേ നിൽക്കെ, വിശപ്പാൽ വായ പിളർന്നേ നിൽക്കെ, പൂർവികരവനെ പിന്നെയും ഊട്ടിപ്പോന്നു. അടിമകൾ അടിയേറ്റു പുളഞ്ഞു, കരിങ്കല്ലേറ്റി വലിഞ്ഞു വരും അടവികളാലെ, യുദ്ധക്കെടുതികളാലെ, ക്ഷാമത്താലെ. പിന്നെ ഇഴഞ്ഞു മറഞ്ഞു നൂറ്റാണ്ടുകളുടെ ഭാരം പേറും ജീവിതം. ഇന്നവനോ ഭീകരനായി മഞ്ഞു കുലുക്കി വിശന്നേ നിൽപ്പു. നമ്മളതെ നമ്മളുമേകുന്നു നൂതന സുഖഭോജന മഴലിൻ കുന്നുകളാൽ, ലോകമഹായുദ്ധങ്ങളുടെ ചോരപ്പുഴയാൽ. എന്നും ഒരേ നിലയിൽ കത്തിപ്പുകയുന്ന ഹിരോഷിമയാൽ, ദുരയാലെ തമ്മിൽ വിഴുങ്ങി വലിക്കും സാമ്രാജ്യങ്ങളുടെ പകയാൽ, താഴെയുടഞ്ഞു തകർന്നോ ആദർശങ്ങളുടെ ചില്ലാൽ. അതിനിതാ സത്വം വലുതാകുന്നു, വിണ്ണു പിളർന്ന മുഖം ഉയരുന്നു, കൈകൾ നീണ്ടുവരുന്നു, വിശപ്പേറുന്നു, പിന്നെയും ആ വായ പിളർന്നിടുന്നു. നമ്മൾ ചൊരിഞ്ഞു ധർമ്മത്തിൻ മിഴിനീരും, പിന്നെയും ഒരു സത്യത്തിൻ നിണവും. പോരാ വിറപൂണ്ടു ചിരിച്ച ഭീകരൻ ഒന്നു കുനിഞ്ഞി നമ്മുടെ ഭൂതലം മാ കയ്യിലെടുത്തു നിവർന്നിടുന്നു. നാവു പുളഞ്ഞോരോ കോണും നക്കി നുണച്ചതു തിന്നു തുടങ്ങിയിടുന്നു. വിഷധൂമം നിറയുന്നു വാനത്താ നിശ്വാസത്താലെ, ഹൃദയം വിവശം, കയ്യിലൊരോടക്കുഴലേ രാക്ഷസനോടെതിർ നിൽക്കാൻ. അതിലൂടെ ആരെ വിളിക്കുന്നു ഞാൻ, ആരെ തേടുന്നു ഞാൻ? കടലിൽ അമർന്നോരമ്മയെ വീണ്ട വരാഹത്തിൻ്റെ കരുത്തിലൊരാളെ. Okay, so very easy to understand maybe the Malayalam version. Sugathakumari is asking who is going to save this world which is just drowning in violence. Okay, let us come to the poem. Did you hear the Malayalam? Did you hear the English? Have you understood something? I hope you understood. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, now let's come to the very first stanza. It's quite simple. There isn't anything, maybe if there is something, I'll just tell you, right? Long ago, beyond the memory of man, in a blind night, eclipsing sun and moon, writhing in pain, mother gave birth to a child. In the dark moment when the first brother slew the first brother and buried him, the child woke up and cried. So the first passage, the poet just mixes two things. Number one, we have the birth of a child. Number two, we have the first murder in the history of human beings, right? Okay, so all right, many years ago human beings were born, or rather a baby was born, all right, and the birth of the baby is mentioned there. And this baby could be anybody, right? This baby could be anybody. Like it could be like a reference to, okay, maybe Adam. It could be a reference to Jesus Christ. Okay, so if it's a reference to Adam, it is, of course, Adam is believed to be in Western mythology, in Christian biblical mythology, Adam is the first man, right? Okay, God created Adam, right? So and again, maybe, all right, you have Jesus Christ, right? Jesus Christ, right, is the savior of maybe, right, he redeems the world, right? Jesus is the God, or rather Son of God, who is offered to, right, the followers of, rather the children of Adam, because they just disobeyed God and consumed the forbidden fruit, and they were just expelled from paradise, and they were offered a savior, and that savior is Jesus, right? So Jesus is maybe the child of a world which has a moksha, salvation, redemption, or anything of that sort. Okay, so we have the birth of man, and then we have the, all right, the first murder in the history of humanity. That is the very murder of Abel by Cain. So Adam and Eve, to Adam and Eve is born Cain and his brother Abel, and they have their okay life, and they both of them are farmers, and they just offered their yield from the farm to God Almighty. Cain is very selfish and greedy, so he is collecting the maybe the not the worst, or rather which could not be, maybe certain things which cannot be just marketed, or which are not useful, right? But Abel is collecting the best from his farm, the best fruit, all right, and God doesn't accept the offers of Cain, all right. In fact, what you see in Bible is fire comes from heaven, and fire consumes the offering, right? In the case of Abel, his offering, the fruits, the vegetable, he offered maybe a young lamb he offered, right? All that is accepted, right? Consumed in fire. Fire is from, of course, heaven, right? But in the case of Cain, his offer is not accepted, and Cain is jealous of Abel, and later full of envy and jealous, he kills his brother Abel, all right? And that is the very first stanza. When the first brother slew the first brother, Cain and Abel, and buried him, the child woke up and cried. Okay, so you have a child there, and that child is a human being, right? So the reference is to the first human being, or rather this is, of course, the history of mankind. Okay, and now from this point, from the timeline of the first man, first baby, Sugathakumari is looking at the 21st century, 20th century, right? A very long period. What has been the history of man? Okay, what has been the history of human civilization? All right, and we can easily understand that the history of mankind is a history of bloodshed and violence. Okay, now we move on to the next stanza. Then, as murders raged in seething darkness, as lies surged up in triumph, as deceit stole close with daggers hidden behind smiles, the child grew strong and smart. Very symbolic references, very symbolic, right? Then, as murders raged, okay, lot of murders, one after the other, in seething darkness. In seething darkness, okay, all the murders, okay, literal meaning could have take place in darkness. It doesn't mean that. It refers to, okay, the darkness refers to diabolic element, evil, right, right, the very spread of evil in the world, right? The spread of negativity, evil, violence, cruelty, hatred, enmity. So because of the spread of hostility, enmity, evil, the murders raged in seething darkness. Okay, the very surge of right, darkness, increasing negativity, cruelty, okay, evil. And again, look at that. There is no goodness at all. Everyone is evil, basically. And people are not truthful, not honest. They just lie. Most of the people are liars. Okay, as lies surged up in triumph, what succeeds is lie. Okay, so the reference is not to maybe interpersonal relationship. It could be a reference to interpersonal relationship, what's happening in the family, what's happening in this community, what's happening in the society. So also it's a reference to the maybe international relationship, like what's happening between countries, what's happening between India and Pakistan, what's happening between USA and Middle East, what's happening between China and of course India. All right, so all that, right? As lies surged up in triumph, as deceits stole close. Okay, deception is everywhere, with daggers hidden behind smiles. Okay, so we have smiles like the kind of smiles of Iago, right? Okay, daggers, somebody smiles, right, with dagger in behind, right, they may have their hands behind them, so they could be having daggers. Cruelty, selfishness, greed, craze for power, the child grew strong and smart. Okay, so the the growth of the human beings, right? Human beings grow up, and along with human beings, violence also grows up. And now we have the baby there, the child there, and that child is growing up in the violence, right? In bloodshed. Okay, and right now Sugathakumari is just very successfully charting out, or rather copying very history of human beings, right? Like all the wars, all the fights, all the famine, all the revolution, okay, from time immemorial. Now let's just continue. His mother's milk not relishing, he searched for battlefields and blood, and laughed in glee at sight of them. Okay, so the very child, individual, one child, and his mother is not happy with the milk of his mother. Okay, and he wants more, and instead of his mother's milk, what he is searching for is blood. Okay, and now he is consuming blood, and he is just laughing in joy, great happiness each occasion he sees blood. So you can understand this is all right. You have a lot of wars, lot of battles, okay, and human beings are very happy or quite very delightful when they see war, bloodshed, dead bodies. Okay, so this is about the first man, and this is also about all the men in the world. All right, so more wars, more murder, atrocity, and okay, this is the history of man. All right, same you can see in all right many poetry, like you have your ONV, അറിയാതെ ജനനിയെ പരിണയിച്ചൊരു യവനത്തൻ്റെ ഇഡിപ്പസ് റൈറ്റ്, പുതിയ കഥ എഴുതുന്നു വസതിയുടെ മക്കൾ. ഓൾറൈറ്റ്, ഓൾ ദാറ്റ് ദെയർ. ആൻഡ് അഗെയിൻ, ഇഷ്ടവധുവാം നിന്നെ സൂര്യൻ അണിയിച്ചൊരാ ചിത്രപട കഞ്ചുകം തെല്ലൊന്നു നീക്കി നീ അരുളിയ മുലപ്പാൽ കുടിച്ചു തൊഴുത്തവർക്കൊരു ദാഹമുണ്ടായി ഒടുക്കത്തെ ദാഹം തിരുഹൃദയ രക്തം കുടിക്കാൻ. ദിസ് ഈസ് ദ റെഫറൻസ് ടു ദ ക്രൂവൽറ്റി ഓഫ് മാൻ, atrocities, deforestation, contamination, pollution, environmental degradation. Okay, all right. In ONV, same is here. His mother's milk not relishing, he searched for battlefields and blood and laughed in glee at sight of them. Now we move on to the next stanza. Okay, he began to run about, he grew dark as night, his fiery eyes grew round, and teeth and nails grew long, and once he saw the agony at Calvary, sucking that in another 6 feet he grew. Thus as he grew and stood a terrible figure, tall and straight, our forefathers fed him well. In this stanza, SUGATHAKUMARI is just including a lot of time. We have a very clever summarization of the history of a summary of history of human civilization and mankind, right? He began to run about, that is the very spread of human beings, right? So we have okay, geographical discoveries, we have colonization. All right, this the man is just finding the unknown lands, and of course now in the 20th century he is also going to the other right planets and all. So he began to run about, he grew dark and as night, dark, right, so diabolic and so devilish and evil is man. His fiery eyes grew round, and teeth and nails grew long. So this is the gigantic statue of the first child, man, the growth of man. Okay, gigantic, huge, right, so violent and so destructive is human beings, right, rather human beings, and the statue is also becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, a very symbolic representation, right? The single statue is representative or representing is a reference to, it's a metaphor of entire humanity, growth of spread of evil, violence in the world. All right, so and now many years passed, centuries passed, and at last we have a lot of saviors. All right, and now we have a savior from Bible, western philosophy, okay, western mythology. You have the agony at Calvary. Jesus Christ is crucified. Okay, Jesus Christ is crucified, and the crucifixion of Jesus, we understand that an innocent man has been crucified by maybe the champions of okay, justice, equality. All right, you know it was the Jews who right crucified Jesus, right? So the agony at Calvary, sucking that in. So we understand that Jesus is, of course, Jesus represents love. Jesus said, okay, love uh, your enemy as you love thyself. Somebody is slapping on your right cheek, show him his left. Show him your left. Okay, if somebody, all right, that's it, right? If you have to share one with your friend who hasn't anything, right? Jesus was, of course, love, right? Jesus said, God is love, please love other, right? So that very Jesus was crucified by man. This is the history of man, okay? So the agony at Calvary. And we human beings, despite of Jesus, despite of the message of Jesus, despite of the Holy Bible, despite of Christianity, despite of Catholicism in entire Europe and the European countries and America and all, we have revolutions, we have wars, World War First, World War II, and of course number of attack in the Middle East. All that is done by a group of people who believe in Jesus. Jesus who said, okay, I shed my blood for your redemption, your salvation. Jesus said that. Okay, and now humanity. All right. SUGATHAKUMARI is very, very powerfully and painfully criticizing modern man. We believe in God, we believe in religions, we practice rituals, we practice religion despite of being very proud that we are Christians and we are, okay, believing in different religions and all. What do? We drink the blood of Jesus, right? That is every holy kurbana or Eucharist, right? The wine is the blood of Jesus, right? Despite of consuming the very flesh of Jesus all these centuries and years, we are evil. This is the history of man. There shouldn't have been any revolution, any battle, any world war, any bombardment, any kind of warfare or other, okay, that craze for weapons, nuclear weapons, all right? If we were all true Christians or true followers of Jesus Christ, or if we were all true worshippers of God or followers of religions. And SUGATHAKUMARI is asking us to look into ourselves, right? So the agony at Calvary, sucking that in another 6 feet he grew. Thus as he grew and stood a terrible figure, tall and straight, our forefathers feared him well. So this figure, a single colossal gigantic figure, a statue, is all human beings together. This is humanity as a statue. Human beings have grown on blood, human blood. We have grown on violence. We have grown on battle, war. Okay? Our forefathers fared him well. All right. Our forefathers, right? Right. So this is why. All right. We have grown up, right? The violence and brutality and negativity and diabolism, evil in us, was fed up by our forefathers, and we are all, humanity is just growing up into a colossal gigantic figure. And now look at that figure there, one individual Colossus representing each of us. What do we crave for? What do we just long for? What do we want to just feed us with? Rather, how is this statue, this gigantic colossal figure, Colossus, is feeding? What does it want as food? They fed him on famine. Humanity was fed on famine. You know famine, right? We had a lot of problems, right? Famine, due to many reasons we have famine. Okay, on the and this gigantic Colossus is the man in history, the man in human civilization was fed up with famine, on the tortures of war, a lot of wars, revolutions, World War First, Second, all the wars for freedom, all right, okay, civil wars, all that, on the tortures of war, on the pain of the deserts through which came slaves writhing under whips. So the reference is to, okay, right, you have the civil rights movement in Africa, civil rights movement in America. You have color discrimination, racial discrimination, apartheid, all right. The reference is to that. The very right, torture, slavery in human history, slavery in America, slavery in, of course, maybe most of the countries which are colonies of, right, like countries, African continent, African countries, Asian, all right, which were, of course, once colonies of European, like British, French, Portuguese, all right, okay, American, right. So on the tortures of war, the pain of the deserts through which came slaves writhing under whips and groaning under loads of stone. The reference is to unending kind of exploitation of maybe the Africans, the people who are maybe just having some racial, maybe a kind of racial segregation, right. The reference is to, of course, slavery in human history. Life crawled crawled into night, burdened with centuries' pain and sin. Okay, so we can, when we look back, we can see the very torture and exploitation of human beings by human beings, and burdened with centuries' pain and sin. Okay, and now the colossal terrors. The colossal terrors refers to the terrors of the large figure, the statue, okay, the child, and now the same statue, that is, of course, symbolic reference to humanity. Okay, now the colossal terrors, hunger shakes the earth. Now human beings, we are hungry, all of us are hungry, we are hungry for, right, we are greedy, right, the greed of individuals, the greed of leaders, the greed of nations, international leaders, okay, and with the greed of people, all right, with the greed of individuals, all right, the earth is shaking, we kill each other, you know. Okay, what happened in Afghanistan, what happened in, of course, all right, maybe Israel, all right, Palestine happens, all right, okay, happened in Kuwait, okay, Iraq, then again, right, in many African countries, okay, in India, all right, okay, a lot of problems, all right, civil internal problems, okay, so also external, all right, this is right. And besides all that, you will also understand the hunger shakes the earth, the colossal terrors, the child's man's hunger shakes the earth is a reference to, okay, environmental destruction as such, right. This is, of course, not only a destruction of humanity, this is also a destruction of the environment. Hello, are you all there? Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
see,
sir.
see, my dear students, in fact, in the college Department of English, all the teachers are in valuation camp, and you are not having class, right. So I spoke to your professor, Mr. Robin sir, and sir permitted me to continue, so I am continuing this hour also. We'll wind up this poem and I'll leave you. Is that okay? Is that okay for you? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let us just continue. Maybe I think three days we are having an evaluation camp, right. So please don't take my words for granted, just listen to your teachers, and if you are told that you have class, just join, right. And I wish to, of course, meet you on the days, if at all I'm in camp, I'll be meeting you, I wish to. Okay, so let us just come to the same stanza. Burdened with centuries' pain and sin, and now the colossal terrors, hunger shakes the earth. So Sugatakumari continues, right. Maybe same idea is reiterated, okay, in all these stanzas, right. And here, as I was reading, of course, I remembered the lines from, again, Malayalam poetry. എൻ്റെ കാതിൽ അലയ്ക്കുന്നു നിത്യമാനുഷ്യ രോദനം, എൻ്റെ കാലിൽ തറയ്ക്കുന്നു മനുഷ്യ തലയോടുകൾ. റൈറ്റ്, എൻ്റെ കാതിൽ അലയ്ക്കുന്നു നിത്യമാനുഷ്യ രോദനം, എൻ്റെ കാലിൽ തറയ്ക്കുന്നു മനുഷ്യ തലയോടുകൾ. So all this is about the kind of brutality, violence, destruction, war that was in the past and that is still spreading around us. We come to the next stanza. All right, I'm changing the slide. We too fed him well. All of us, we are all responsible for the spread of violence. We too feed him well. We piled up suffering hill high with the blood of world wars. So why has this child become so gigantic and so huge? Because we fed this child with cruelty, we fed him with blood of world wars. Okay, so violence is spreading, and this colossal statue of evil is growing up with the blood of world wars, with the ever burning smoky flame of Hiroshima, with the greedy hatred of empires swallowing each other, with the debris of broken ideals. Okay, so here violence has been spreading in the world. Ever burning smoky flame of Hiroshima. You know, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the World War. Okay, when the bomb was dropped, a lot of people died, and even after many years, even now when people are born in Hiroshima, of course many are, right, there are of course reports of maybe disability, mental problems, right, physical deformity and all, right. So with the ever burning smoky flame of Hiroshima, and the reference is not just to Hiroshima alone, the reference is to all the war. USA responsible, UK responsible, right, problems in many countries, Israel, Syria, Palestine, India, Pakistan, right. Okay, wherever there is a death, that is just referred to. And besides, of course, we have a craze for weapons, right. Okay, and we have a lot of maybe we need energy, and for the purpose of energy, of course, we depend on nuclear reactors and all, and we have the very the problem of the disaster of Chernobyl, you know, Chernobyl disaster. Similarly, many disasters in which, right, very toxic, lethal chemicals just come out of these reactors as a result of leakage there, right. So references to, of course, Chernobyl and other, right, with a greedy hatred of empires, reference to US, UK, China, right, India, okay, swallowing each other, one empire swallowing each other. And this is not just to, right, the kind of external aggression. The reference is to, now maybe before independence we had something like colonies, right, we were a colony, right, but after independence, in the last decades of 20th century, you have a kind of neo-colonization with globalization, liberalization, free markets. You have what is called neo-colonization, all right, and all the references to all that, right. Sugathakumari is not at all happy with whatever is occurring around in the world, right, with the greedy hatred of empires swallowing each other, with the debris of broken ideals. This is again, right, the debris of broken ideals. Broken ideals is a reference to all the religions of the world. Great philosophies we have, great religions we have, broken ideals. Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, okay, a lot of people again, right, philosophers, right. So with the broken ideals, Amar, come on, Amar. Amar, I am continuing the class. Okay, please, we'll talk later. Yeah, it's going on. I would like to continue the class, right? Okay, we'll talk later. All right. You can join. Yeah, I'll admit you. All right. Oh, sorry. In fact, that was Amar requesting to join. Let me just admit him. Okay. Are you all there? Where are some of us? Okay, doesn't matter. I'm just looking for Amar's request, right? I'll admit him when he joins, right? Shall we continue? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, with the greedy hatred of empires swallowing each other. All right, he's here, Amar. Okay, swallowing each other with the debris of broken ideals. This is very important. Debris of broken ideals refers to all the religions, philosophies, holy books. Okay, we have plenty, right? Okay, all the religions of the world became futile despite of Christianity, despite of the prayers of Christianity, despite of Bible, despite of saints, despite of Hinduism, despite of all the gods, right? Despite of all the prayers, hatred, violence, butchery, bloodshed. The more we give, the fiercer the monster grows. And this monster is the gigantic figure, metaphorical representation of one child, but that one child is entire humanity in all the continents, right? Okay, the more we give, the fiercer the monster grows. His hunger rages, the rage, all right, his hunger rages, right? The hungry of each man. My hunger, my hunger for wealth, my hunger for all my needs, right? Similarly, the hunger of each of us, the greed of each of us, right? Okay, and because I am greedy, because I am selfish, maybe I am rude to my family, maybe I am rude to my neighbor, maybe I am rude to you, maybe I am rude to my society, my community, my country, and the very environment. Each of us, right? Each of us, right? Okay, so think of all the developmental projects, dams, airports, silver line, all right, lot of projects we have all these projects, and as a result, whenever we have a developmental projects like a dam or an airport, or maybe the very widening of the roads or highways or anything, we understand Mother Earth is being raped, being just devastated, shattered and battered. All right, so this is of course atrocities of man to his own kith and kin, right? Okay, atrocities of man on other men, so also atrocities of man on the environment. Okay, then the vegetable world, the animal world, so also now having completed the very conquest of the earth, the watery planet, man right now is aiming at the other planets. Look at that. That is the very growth of violence in the history of human civilization, and SUGATHAKUMARI is lamenting it. Okay, and the same lament you can see in maybe the other poems, right? All the other poems in Ratrimara, then Oruvattu Pinneyum, or Manava Hridayam, all the poems in Manava Hridayam and all, right? The more we give, the fiercer, the more we give, the fiercer the monster grows. His hunger rages, he grows taller than the sky. Towards us his arms come lengthening. Okay, we just kill ourselves, right? His mouth gapes wider. All right, the very potential of man for destruction. Okay, a child grew into a gigantic figure. He is hungry, he is just opening his mouth to devour something. All right, look at that. He grows taller than the sky. Towards us his arms come lengthening. Okay, his arms, my arms, your arms, our arms, symbolically represented to Colossus the statue. His mouth gapes wider. We pour dharma into the tears of, all right, we pour into it the tears of dharma. Okay, we are feeding the devil in us. We are feeding this colossal, gigantic figure of violence with the tears of dharma. Dharma is abandoned. Dharma is given up. Okay, and again the blood of truth. So we give up dharma, we relinquish dharma, we relinquish truth, and whenever we relinquish truth, there is tears and blood. And this gigantic figure, this Colossus, this colossal figure is fed with our cruelty, our lack of dharma and truth and principles. Okay, same thing happens when maybe the president of some of the countries take a very bad decision. All right, problems in between Russia and Ukraine. Now we are afraid, right? Maybe we think that there could be a problem anytime, right? If one of the international leaders is becoming diabolic, right, there could be a big problem. There could be a third world war anytime. And all right, and now we also think that, right, maybe all right, the very pandemic has been a man creation, right? A creation of man. We are afraid, right? We are afraid. All right, there are such kind of talk, right? There is a talk going on that way, right? So we pour into it the tears of dharma and again the blood of truth. No, not enough. Shaking with laughter, all this violence, all the wars, battles, world wars, revolutions, riots, civil rights movement, okay, internal problems, external aggression, all this is not enough. Shaking with laughter, the monster bends down, takes our earth in his hands. Now the earth is in the hands of devil. The earth is in the hand of maybe all right, evil, and we are all the colossal figure. That is, look at that gigantic figure of a man holding the earth in his palm, and that gigantic figure is each of us. All right, takes our earth in his hands and stands straight and huge. His wriggling tongue, right, licks every corner of the earth. He has begun munching it, right? Modern man, for development, deforestation, construction, massive construction, right? Use of resources, all right? Climatic change, depletion of ozone layer, natural disasters, cyclones, tsunami, all right, flood, drought. Okay, all this is referred here. His wriggling tongue licks every corner of the earth. What comes to my mind right now is, when you just maybe you drive for some time, maybe 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers you drive, you may come across 3 or 4 JCBs, right? Okay, you have all the machinery required for maybe the destruction of whatever is left on the lap of Mother Earth, right? Okay, so the wriggling tongue reference is to, right, environmental destruction caused by man. All right, his wriggling tongue licks every corner of the earth. He has begun munching it. All right, now the sky fills with the poison of his breath. Reference is to all the damage done to the earth, all the spheres of the atmosphere, lithosphere, stratosphere, all these spheres, right? Okay, reference is to climatic changes, pollution. All right, the sky fills with the poison of his breath. My heart is faint. The poet SUGATHAKUMARI, she is lamenting. I faint. I become unconscious at this brutality, this cruelty. My heart is faint. I have only a loot to face this giant with. There is this huge, diabolic, devilish, gigantic, colossal figure of man. And now he is going to devour the earth. I don't know how to face him. I don't know how to tame him. I don't know how to maybe control him. I have only my pen with me. I have only a lute with me. All right, I have just a lute with me. I can only sing a song. I can only write a poem. If at all my poem helps, I wish if my poem opens the eyes of everybody, if they realize the very cruelty they are responsible for, all right, and if they change, right. So I don't know how to face this gigantic colossal figure of violence and brutality and destruction. My heart is faint. I have only a lute. That I is the poet, right. I have only a lute to face this giant with. This giant is one side, that statue, all right, the very child that was born many years ago. The other side is this giant is all the human beings together as an individual. This giant with. Whom do I call through my lute? Whom should I pray unto? Whom should I, to whom shall I invoke? God, please help. No. All the gods were futile, useless. Christianity. We have a lot of religions here, gods here, all the gods, right? Nothing helped, nothing helps. Now whom shall I implore unto? Whom shall I plead to? Whom shall I invoke? Whose help should I seek right now? Whom do I call through my lute? Whom do I search for? Which God can help me? I search for a mighty one. I want a very powerful God right now to help the world. Help the world. I want a mighty one. As mighty as the Varaha. You know, Varaha is the very third incarnation of Vishnu. Now listen, my dear students, if you look at the poem, you will understand. Initially, SUGATHAKUMARI is asking us to look at Western religion, Western philosophy, the Christian religion, Christian philosophy. All right, despite of Christianity, despite of Jesus, despite of Bible, okay, violence has been spreading. There were wars, revolutions, torture, all right, military attacks, death, all that, despite of. And now maybe like in wasteland, right, you have wasteland, okay, the poet is sure that the Western, all right, maybe, yes, right, the Western philosophies, all right, fail, and the what is it, the Upanishads, right, Datta Dayata Damyada, right, the Upanishads, right, we have to, of course, maybe go to the Upanishads for a rejuvenation of this, maybe, all right, for a refreshing or a rejuvenation of the wasteland. We may have to go to, of course, the Hindu mythology, right. Similarly, in this poem, like your wasteland, in this poem also, SUGATHAKUMARI is she's just pointing at the futility of the Western religions and philosophers and ideologies and maybe the holy books, and she's asking us to maybe turn to and pray to the very Hindu mythology, all right, in which you have the right, the different incarnation of all right, the Lord Vishnu. So I search for a mighty one. I want a very powerful God for the redemption of this this earth, right. I search for a mighty one, mighty as the Varaha. And Varaha, you know, Varaha is the third incarnation of Vishnu. Vishnu has, of course, you have heard about the Dashavadaras, right? Okay, the 10 incarnations. That is, of course, Malsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narasimha, Vamana, Parashurama, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, then of course Kalki. All right. So these are all the different incarnations of Lord Vishnu. So maybe Varaha, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, may save, all right, somebody as powerful as, right, one of the incarnations, right? A very powerful incarnation of Lord Vishnu may save the world, the earth. And I wish, if I am being held by, the modern man is being held by, the world is being held by a God who is as powerful as the mighty Varaha that rescued our mother from the depths of the sea. So you have the reference to the very history of Kerala, Parashurama throwing his axe and redeeming the very God's own country Kerala. All right, so the reference is to that very mythology, and just like Parashurama redeeming the Mother Earth from the depths of the sea, I wish, if my maybe if I am being held by one of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu, and the earth is being redeemed or saved by one of the incarnations. So this is what I can just pray unto, and I am praying unto with my lute, with my pen. Through this poem, I am invoking the gods to save the world. All right, with that, the poem, all right, the very poem comes to a conclusion. Maybe we can just go for a discussion right now. I think the poem is clear to you. Have you understood the poem? Is the poem clear? Oh, we'll go for one more recitation. Okay, the English version, and afterwards we will just have a quick discussion. So ensure that you know it, right? So come on, I'm requesting. Okay, Amar, can you recite the poem? Can you look at the PowerPoint and recite the poem?
Sure,
Yeah,
sir. Sure, sir.
yeah,
Sure.
please. Is it okay? Do you have any problem after the COVID for your throat and all? If you have any problem, please don't.
No, sir, no problem with my throat. The
Okay.
only problem is to get up in the morning.
All
That's the
right.
only problem I have
Okay.
now.
Yeah, I know. I too had the same problem.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
feel very exhausted, and please.
I just did a brisk walk yesterday.
All right. All right.
That was
Okay.
the strain is there.
All
That's why.
right. Anyway, no worries.
Okay.
Please
From the
recite.
from
Please recite. Everybody,
from the
please listen very carefully and see that you have no confusion anywhere. Come on. Come on.
so from long ago, right? From long
Yeah,
ago.
long ago.
Long ago, beyond the memory of man, in a blind night, eclipsing sun and moon, writhing in pain, mother gave birth to a child. In the dark moment when the first brother slew the first brother and buried him, the child woke up and cried. Then, as murderers raged in seeing darkness, as lies surged up in triumph, as the seeds stole close, with daggers hidden behind smiles, the child grew strong and smart. His mother's milk not relishing, he searched for battlefields and bird, and laughed in glee at sight of them. So the next slide.
Next, I change this line, my dear.
Okay. He began to run about. He grew dark as night. His fiery eyes grew around, and teeth and nails grew long. And once he saw the agony at Calvary, sucking that in another 6 feet he grew, thus as he grew, and stood a terrible figure tall and straight, for forefathers fed him well. They fed him on famine, on the tortures of war, on the pain of deserts through which came slaves, writhing under whips and groaning under loads of stone. Life crawled into night, burdened with centuries' pain and sin, and now the colossal terrors hunger shakes the earth. We, yes, we too, feed him well, with piled up suffering hill high, with the blood of world wars, with the ever burning smoky flame of Hiroshima, with the greedy hatred of empires swallowing each other, with the debris of broken ideals. The more we give, the fiercer the monster grows. His hunger rages. He grows taller than the sky. Towards us, his arms come lengthening, his mouth gapes wider. We pour into it the tears of Dharma, and again the blood of truth. No, not enough. shaking with laughter. The monster bends down, takes our earth in his hands, and stands straight and huge. His wriggling tongue licks every corner of the earth. He has begun munching it. The sky fills with poison of his breath. By heart it faints. I have only a lute to face the giant with. Whom do I call through my lute? Whom do I search for? I search for a mighty one, mighty as Varaha, that rescued our mother from the depths of the sea.
Okay, thank you, Amar. Thank you very much. And now, please listen to me, my dear students. In fact, I have told you most of the important points. Okay, so maybe you can just consider certain questions. Okay, and the entire ideas in the poem could be the answers to the questions. All right, exam point of view. So one of the questions could be something like this, right? Do you think that, or do you believe that the poem Colossus is about the history of mankind, or rather, do you think that it is about the history of human civilization? All right. So it's a very textual question, and it is quite easy to answer, right? Okay, you can easily answer that, right? Another question you can remember is, what is the philosophy of life in the poem Colossus, right? The very philosophy of life in the poem Colossus, right? All right. And when you answer that question, you will highlight the very Western religions, and of course the Western philosophies, and maybe the failure of Western philosophies in the history of man, in the history of civilization, and the poet's hope for the redemption of mankind or the world through or by the Eastern philosophy or Eastern religion, right? Okay, so you can write about that. And now you can expect certain general questions, right? And general questions, you will have to mention other important titles of Sugathakumari. Say, you know that I told you in the beginning that Sugathakumari has been very active. She was, of course, quite alert, and she was maybe she is a humanist, she is an activist, she is a feminist, and she is an environmentalist. Okay, so when you have general questions, you will have to quote from maybe other poems in which you have clear evidence for Sugathakumari as an activist, an environmentalist, a feminist, and of course a humanist, right? Okay, so you will have maybe, if at all you have questions for Sugathakumari, you can expect general questions, right? And one of the general question is beauty and truth in the poetry of Sugathakumari. Beauty and truth in the poetry of Sugathakumari. All right. Okay. So far as Colossus, the poem is concerned, maybe we don't have much beauty there. All right. You have a lot of violent, grotesque scenes there. All right. But maybe as a poetic, maybe as a piece of poetry, Colossus has some beauty, because it very effectively captures the entire history of man from line 1 to line 3. Okay, so that is poetic beauty. But other, maybe the beauty of nature, maybe the beauty of different natural phenomena, you can see in other poems of Sugathakumari. And even in those poems, say for example in Oru Paattu Pinneyum, or in Ratri Mara, or Ambalamani, or Pavam Manav Hridayam, or Kuringi Pookal, or any poem. Okay, one side you have beauty, right? Natural beauty, beauty from around us. The other side we have, of course, a lot of truth, and truth is often painful. Similarly, the truth in the poetry of Sugathakumari is very painful, and that truth is a warning to us. Beware, stop this. Such kind of a warning is always there. Okay, so beauty and truth in the poetry of Sugathakumari. So that warning, and you have a lot of truth in this poem as well, right? Colossus, right? This has been the history of humanity. This is the truth. This is the truth. Maybe we are so happy, so satisfied, so content, and we may just justify ourselves, right? Like, yeah, I believe in God, I practice God, maybe I practice religion, I practice a lot of rituals, right? But do we have anything, maybe any goodness in us? The truth is we do not have, and that truth is very, very powerfully told in this poem Colossus. So we are all so violent, all right, and we are also diabolic and devilish, so evil, that each of us can be this gigantic figure of brutality, violence, right? So Colossus can be each of us, each of the modern, right? Because, right, we are also selfish and greedy, right? So the poetry of Sugathakumari is, of course, very, very truthful, right? And now another general question could be something like images and symbols in the poem Colossus, right? The images and symbols, right? So that's again, it can come, right? So you have a lot of images, right? Images and symbols from Eastern mythology, Western mythology, all right, Christianity, Hinduism, all right. So lot of symbols and images from the West and the East we have in the Colossus. One by one, I said all that as I was just saying, all right. Similarly, images that refer to all the incidents in world history, all the world shaking incidents, all the incidents that destroyed the world, that just killed maybe many men, right? Okay, then you can just look at another question. Okay, it would be something like this, right? How far is the poetry of Sugathakumari the dream realization of being vigilant? Her poetry, Sugathakumari, the poetry of Sugathakumari is the dream realization of being vigilant. She has always been very vigilant, very watchful, very alert, all right, very alert, right? So is her poetry, is the poetry of Sugathakumari the dream realizations of maybe vigilant, right? And it's true. Okay, whenever humanity or other, the value, the principles, truth, dharma, okay, if is sacrificed, is destroyed, all right, she is hurt. Similarly, whenever Mother Earth is raped, destroyed, devastated, okay, she is very, very vigilant, and she's all right. Similarly, whenever we have, of course, problems, atrocities of maybe atrocities towards women, okay, domestic violence, whatever we have, the kind of crime we have spreading in Kerala, all right, she's just very vigilant, and she's asking us to be, right? That very poem Ratrimara is about the angst and worry of the poem, right? I mean the poet, right? She is so shocked, right? Because what happens to maybe a girl, what happens to, right, a woman, all right, an unwedded, right, a mother, okay, so what happens to the poor, all right, all that is a pain to Sugathakumari, and she is always very alert and vigilant, and in her poetry, through her poetry, she is just trying to resolve the issues of man or the contemporary Kerala or world, right? Okay, I think with that we can come to the end of Sugathakumari. Is it okay if you are satisfied, and if you think that we can just wind up maybe Colossus here, we can conclude it here. I'll leave you here right now. Next day I'll be discussing, okay, Ullur. Is it okay? Can I leave you here? Do you want to ask me something?
Yes, sir.
Anybody? If any of you want to ask me something, some general discussion, I'm ready for that. Anyone? Hello. Please respond.
Sir, sir, did you take the Malayalam version before I came?
I recited the Malayalam version. Do you want to listen again? It's there. It's already there. And this video is being, right, this session is being recorded, right? It's recorded. Okay. And you can listen to it anytime, right? I think I was trying to record it. I think that record will be there, right? Okay. I'll share it with you, Amar. Malayalam
sure,
version
sir.
I have with me. I have anthology complete works of SUGATHAKUMARI with me. I can give you that. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So can I leave you all here? Have a wonderful day, everybody. Enjoy your day. Bye bye. Thank you all for
Sure,
being
sir.
here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice
Bye.
day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye bye.